No, I was very surprised. Professor Salil Kanhere from the University of New South Wales, working with his postgraduate student, Jin Zhang, who is about to get his PhD, they've worked out that Wi-Fi can snoop on you, and not just snoop on the content of what you're saying, but the actual signal that comes back to the Wi-Fi unit. By looking at the strength of that signal and the timing, they can work out what you're doing.
So would it be fair to say that it's something akin to a sonar?
You could. It's sort of like a radar, essentially. Just it's done on a much smaller scale. So essentially the idea is, say, as you're walking, I mean, there's wireless spectrum all around us all the time. And each of us sort of creates a perturbation in the wireless signal. And each of us is different, right? So you're shaped differently, I'm shaped differently, Dr. Karl is shaped differently. And as we are walking around, each of us has our unique gait as well, the way we move our hands, the way we move our feet, the way our body moves. So the perturbations that you create, Miriam, are very different to the ones I would create, to the ones Dr. Karl would create. So what our system does is it tries to learn these perturbations, and then it can uniquely identify whether it's detected you versus me versus, say, Dr. Karl.
It can actually pick the difference between us.
Yes.
So suppose it's working just between, say, you and Miriam. What sort of accuracy does it have, like 5, 10, 20, 50% accuracy?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So currently what we are doing is we are targeting sort of a small smart home space. So say you have a home with 5, 6 individuals, and we are trying to see if you can actually pick one individual versus the other 5 in this setting. And we are getting about, say, 80 to 90% accuracy
80 to 90?
in those
That's
sort of
extraordinary.
experiments. Although I must admit this is still in a very controlled environment. So the setting is such that it's just one person who's currently we are trying to pick out. So if 2 people start walking together, our technology won't be able to pick that out as of yet.
So how does the Wi-Fi, it's the router that is picking up the signal, how does it then differentiate? Is there a particular program that's required to do this?
Yes. So the way this works is we actually go through a training phase. So what we do is you can imagine there's a Wi-Fi router, as you mentioned, in your house, and there'll be other sensing devices which might be embedded in the home. So these devices will keep recording the signal that's been transmitted by the Wi-Fi router. And as you walk around, the disturbances you create are picked by this embedded device.
So it's not looking at the content of the Wi-Fi signal. So the Wi-Fi unit is always measuring the strength of the signal, and it might be a bit weaker, a bit stronger, coming a bit earlier, a bit later, because bags of meat are interfering with it. And the dimensions of the signal are of the order of about that much. You know, so that's the wavelength of a microwave signal, roughly, and that's like the distance across my hand. So it can sort of pick, you know, we're the same sort of size, and I might walk like this, and you might walk like that, and when you're walking, your trunk moves at 1 metre per second, your hands move at 2 metres per second. We all walk differently, and you've got to the stage you can actually pick up these differences.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Wow.
So what happens with these devices is they collect something which is called channel state information. So this is very fine-grained information in the wireless channel. So when we are transmitting on, say, Wi-Fi, the actual data gets split across 30 subchannels.
13?
30.
Wow, 30?
Yeah.
Wow.
So these devices can actually pick out those 30 subchannels. They can measure the attenuations and the phase shifts that are happening. And based on that, we can sort of train the system for your signature, and for my signature.
And apparently it can even pick up if your hands are typing different keys on the keyboard?
Yes, that's correct.
And your mouth is making different noises. So if I say O versus E, it can pick up the difference.
Yes.
But these are not where you've got the Wi-Fi unit just in the ceiling metres away, but rather right at your keyboard or aimed at your mouth really close, within a metre or so.
Exactly, yeah. For those sort of applications, you do need to do the measurements fairly close. In fact, there's very recent work that's even, it's still under it's not published yet, it's going to come out, I believe, next month, where they've been able to tell your emotions. So they can actually detect the heartbeat signal, and essentially, based on that, they can tell whether you're sad or happy and things like
There
that.
must be all kinds of applications that you could have for this sort of technology.
Yeah.
I understand it's still quite developmental, but are there already ideas about how it's going to be used?
Yeah, so I think the initial target application is the smart spaces. So in an office, in a home, where you don't, I mean, a lot of this stuff can be done using actual devices, so things like wearables which you wear. But here we are shifting from making people wear anything and just having devices in the environment that can sort of measure these. And so it's more about adapting the smart spaces based on, say, your moods, what you're doing, who the person is. So it's those kind of applications that we are currently looking at.
Is there any way, because obviously there will be some of us who will be thinking, oh, this sounds like a Jason Bourne movie. Is there any way, if you want to, that you can mask what your Wi-Fi is doing?
Yeah, that's. I mean, there could be certainly that's something that needs to be explored a bit, but I presume there should be ways to do that.
You could embed a fine metal mesh like flight screen wire entirely within the wall of your house, and that would act as a Faraday cage. And I guess on the glass you could have a thin film of, say, titanium, which would be both metal and transparent.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be and don't carry a phone on you. So in one sense, we three are probably in the last generation ever to have known privacy.
But I'm sure it still will be very useful to see what this technology can give us. Salil, Dr. Karl, fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for speaking to us on Weekend Breakfast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Miriam.